All right, good evening, Facebook family. Welcome to another episode of Marriage Mondays with Nick and Trina Brinson. Appreciate y'all for coming to join us tonight and get some of the information that we have prepared for you that will hopefully help you uh, make your marriage better. That's what we're here to do.
We are.
So go ahead.
And we encourage you, those of you that can and will to join us on live. We know most people by far watch it as a recording, but if you can catch us live, we encourage you to do so. And the best way to get other people to join in live is to go ahead and to share this video as we're speaking. Go ahead and share this video with others, post it where people can see it so that if they would like to join us, they will. So, and for those that are watching recorded, because I've had several people say that they can't catch us live because I guess we haven't been advertising the time well enough. So we're on every Monday at 7 p.m. Unless there's a holiday or something unusual going on, we are usually here on Mondays. So we want to be consistent. Marriages are always under attack. And so we want to always be able to give you equipment or resources, something to help you to make your marriage survive the next storm, the next obstacle. So that's what we're here for. And so Mondays at 7 p.m. On our Crown Kingdom Cultural Church Center Facebook page. We're hoping to consider some other platforms in the future. We'll keep you posted with that. Hey, Cinda Brown, who caught us live today. I saw Francine is with us. That means Charles is too. Francine and Charles Brown. And I think I saw Latasha Hyler's name come across the top as well. Mm-hmm. So we appreciate you guys being ready and coming on right away. Share. Of course, we'll be up on YouTube after the broadcast, definitely by tomorrow. That's a good way to share with people who don't use Facebook. And pray about us with Instagram. That would be that may be a platform we're considering. So we'll see. But anyway, we appreciate you guys supporting us and appreciate that you guys can use the materials that we're offering to you and the strategies. As always, we come from everything that we share with you guys is rooted in the Word of God. And because that's what we stand for, that's who we represent within from our church ministry. That's who we represent in our everyday lives. So we want you to be stronger in your marriage. We want you to be able to encourage others in marriage as well. So that's what we're here for. And I'm excited about the topic we have tonight. I feel like it's one that needs to be discussed.
All right. So with that said, we would like to...
Did we acknowledge our church?
I think you did.
I don't think I did. I think I said the name of the church, but we didn't acknowledge our leaders. And I don't want to overlook that.
Oh, never overlook that. Never underestimate them. We just want to bring you greetings from Dr. Finus Bush and Lady Denise Bush. And we just want to give them the recognition that they deserve for just allowing us and pushing us and imparting us to make our marriage, what it is today. They've had a hand in it. They continue to be an example to us as we continue to give you information that's basically coming from his branch, his Bishop and First Lady's branch of ministry. So, without them, where we are in our life, it'd be hard to say we'd made it this far.
Yeah.
We definitely appreciate them for being a part of who we are.
Unless God chose to use somebody else, we wouldn't be here. And that's just dealing with people being people, with humanity. It's not even with any big, huge, like, what's the right word? Were you offenses to somebody or breaking the marriage vows? It wasn't even that. It was just a matter of learning how two people to become one, knowing how to do that process. It takes skills. People take for granted that if you love somebody, you get married and you just work it out. Mm-hmm. But, you're missing a lot in that process to get to a happy ending or for you to enjoy your marriage long term. It really does take some skills, and they don't teach us these skills in school. They don't teach you these skills in college. And a lot of us didn't learn it at home with our parents, or what we learned at home with our parents may not have been exactly what we needed for our marriage, because
Right.
your marriage can look very different from your parents' relationship, and that's by design.
It is. But the thing about it is, what a lot of strong marriages, and we're not talking about this subject tonight, but a lot of strong marriages are based on some basic values. And once you build those basic values, then you can build a marriage together that may look different than somebody else's, but there are some basic values that a lot of marriages are based on.
I
And
think
the
if you
word of God
find,
is one of them.
yeah, that is the
Right.
foundation, honestly. I mean, that's from where we sit. That's the foundation that we know for sure works. But you have a lot of Christians that get divorced, a lot of Christians that are
That is
in
true.
bad marriages. So it's not just choosing to be a Christian individually. It really is about learning to apply those Christian principles within a relationship. And that's not quite as easy as you as an individual person deciding to follow God. There's some skills that it takes within that process for the two of you to work together.
Right.
So, and that's what we're here for, is to help you navigate that. So,
And one of those skills we're going to start discussing, which is a good segue
it is.
to that, is learning to manage your emotions. Emotional self-regulation is what we're talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm. And that's a term we don't hear very often. I think more often we hear this concept referred to in the Bible as temperance.
Mm.
Temperance. And it's doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But the truth is, once you learn to make some progress, I can't even say master, because God knows I have not mastered this, but I have made progress individually. And even the little bit of progress I've made in this area makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to be tempered. And it takes some learning. It takes
does.
some practice. It takes some grace.
It does, all of that.
Yeah.
And so by definition, emotional self-regulation is the ability to exert control over one's own emotional state. And the reason you need to get control over your emotional state, because your marriage is always under assault. It's always, it can be anything that can set your marriage off.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's happened in the past can come rear its ugly head and cause you to become emotional. And you can actually live in that moment like it just happened. So that's why it's good to learn to master your emotions when you're dealing with each other, especially when you're dealing with your wife or your husband.
Yeah.
So
I want to make it clear for those that may not know, we might be assuming.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're saying that marriages are always under attack, we're talking about from a spiritual perspective. Marriage is something that is it's a spiritual union. And so anything that is a spiritual entity, you're going to have some spiritual warfare to come against it. And so, in case you didn't know, when you chose to get married, you voluntarily took on something that will invite warfare into your life, spiritual warfare. And if you're not aware of that, you're going to end up turning on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the two of you working together from a spiritual perspective to recognize that the conflict you're having between the two of you is not really about the two of you. It's about getting some disunity between the two of you so that you can't be as powerful as you can be together. It really is from a spirit. When you look at it from a spiritual perspective, as a Christian, as a child of God, you have the tools that it takes to make your marriage strong enough to withstand those bouts of warfare. But you have to learn to change your perspective. And that's a lot of what we're talking about today with emotional regulation. That's one of the strategies we're going to talk about.
Right. And by changing your perspective is one thing you need to do is to renew your mind in your relationship. Mind renewal comes with new information.
All right, where are you? I got to follow you. We didn't do this, did we?
Yeah, I talked about those, the definition of it and all that. Yep.
Can we talk about it a little more?
You got more to say?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll say it then.
I don't think I got a chance. I talked, but it wasn't about that.
Well, go ahead and just tell the people.
Okay, so let's
study.
Back up. Stick to the lesson plan here. He did say that emotional self-regulation, is your ability to exert control over yourself and your emotion. But what I wanted to point out is that when your feelings are untamed, that your feelings cannot be trusted. Because a lot of times, just from a natural perspective, we feel a certain way and we respond or act out of those feelings or those emotions. That's a dangerous way to live. You really have to get to a place to where you recognize that your feelings should not be what initiates you to action. If you look at your feelings for what they are, which is just a small portion of what's going on, it's a response that you have, but it doesn't dictate your next move. When you choose to make your next move or say your next, the next thing to your spouse, or do the next thing, the next interaction between the two of you, and it's something harsh out of your emotions, you are going to do more damage than if you had stopped to kind of take a beat, think about what you're dealing with here and make a better choice. You don't always have to act based on how you feel. Most commonly, that's what we do as humans. We feel and we act based on how we feel. But there comes a time as a Christian that you have to mature beyond that point if you want to experience better in your life. So that's what the emotional self-regulation comes in, is you have to learn to regulate your own emotions. And so that was a point. I didn't want to run over that point because I feel like that's fundamental to realize that when your emotions are untamed, it can make you act way out of character. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go back and be like, dog, I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean to do that. Now I got to go back and clean it up. And then that, a lot of times pride gets in the way because you don't really want to have to go back and admit that you did too much. But just out of letting your emotions run wild or letting them be untamed, right, it leads you to kind of act out of character or to not be able to put your best effort forward in your relationship. And sometimes it's hard to clean that stuff up because I find it's easier to try to catch it before I do it than to have to go back and have to clean it up.
That's a very true statement. Because once it's out there,
you got to deal with it.
It's out there.
Well, you got to deal with it.
And like I said, you have to learn. Even in that, there's ways you have to learn. If it's out there and you're dealing with it, make sure it's in a way of doing it in love. And that's one thing you got to learn how to do when you act out of your emotion. That's why it's important to implement this idea into your marriage. Learn how to control that, but like she said, before it comes out. If you learn to control it before it comes out, then you don't have to deal with it. You just pray about it. You ask God to give you a different way to say it, mm-hmm. and then you say what you have to say. But you have to deal with the topic or the issue at hand, and it don't have to be a highly volatile, intense situation that has that has come out. But if you learn how to control your emotions, it can be dealt with. Resolution can be made, and then you end in peace. Yeah, it really could be that simple.
And usually it don't even have to be a long, drawn out process to where you I gotta go pray over a few days. Sometimes it ain't even gotta be out there. You know that there's a better choice you can make. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of getting yourself to take a breath and make a better decision. Right. And it's a practice. It's just like we talk about all the time in marriage, that you have to develop skills. If you want your marriage to be strong, successful, and steadily moving forward and growing, you have to develop skills. And that's a way of retraining yourself, not to kind of have those knee-jerk reactions, but for you to actually think about your response and to be a little bit more measured in your response. And not only with your spouse, that's just it's temperance. Right. I mean, when I think about this whole lesson, it just makes me think about it's temperance, which is one of the fruits of the Spirit. It is a fruit of the Spirit, which means that as long as you're a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit and you have the Holy Spirit in you, you have access to what it takes to develop temperance.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit is your advocate.
Right. Look at you trying to pull in a lesson from the other week.
Just let it flow, baby. Just let it flow, boo.
That was good. That was good. But you're absolutely right. We do have an advocate, but that's the way for us to get to manage things better. It's true with your children. Mm-hmm. I mean, we fly off the handle sometimes with our kids. They can push those buttons and we do things, and some people never go back and apologize to their kids. Sometimes we just be doing too much and we don't realize that it is important for us to be regulated. Even if we feel justified in what we did, if it does not reflect temperance, then we really do have to check ourselves. Hello, mother. She always says, "Good evening, children." So good evening, mother. We're glad you're joining us.
I mean,
all right. So I didn't want to skip over that. I felt
okay.
like we went through that first part kind of fast, and I thought that was really important.
All right.
So let's go on to our second point.
All right. Second point
is how to implement.
How to implement
Emotional.
So that slowness that I did.
What was the purpose of that?
I don't know. It just for effect.
Okay. How to implement emotional self-regulation, because we've identified what it is. So now we want to talk a little bit about some strategies you can use to actually implement it.
Right.
Okay.
And that goes into the point I was making about renewing your mind. When you renew your mind, this helps this situation that you and your spouse is going through. Now, it don't always, you have to be going through something to learn this. Learn to do something before it actually comes. Learn to anticipate what may actually happen. Learn to do what it takes to bring that peace between you and your spouse. And talking about this topic, that your emotions may get out of hand, learn to control them. And then learning to control them means that you probably need some new information. So learning to renew your mind definitely helps that situation.
It does. And anytime we talk about mind renewal, I always think about Romans 12:1 and 2, to not be transformed by the world. Why am I missing that scripture?
Transformed by the
not to be conformed.
Right.
Why didn't I have that scripture read?
I don't know.
But do not be conformed to the world, but be do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Golly, I don't know why I couldn't pull that up when I needed it. But there we go. But that scripture always, it's just kind of right there, reminding me that, mind renewal in the context of the world system, the way things are done in the world, we have to be careful not to get sucked into what is common, what is commonly accepted. And we have to make sure that, and that even goes for like religious beliefs. We got to be careful not to just automatically conform without knowing what the Word of God says about any given topic. And so in order to renew your mind, that's very intentional. You want to renew your mind based upon the Word of God, not based upon tradition, not based upon what's commonly accepted in the world. It's something that you have to do very intentionally. And so one thing that I've heard recently, I think maybe it was even yesterday. Yeah, what Bishop Bush said was to be an asset. Wherever you go, to be an asset, and to be an asset to your spouse. And that takes a level of mind renewal to think of yourself as an asset to your spouse. And so when you are interacting with your spouse, you can't help but to think about things a little bit differently if you're focused on being an asset, which means you have to regulate your feelings. You have to think about how you're feeling and how you're going to respond. And so we're by no means saying just to bow down and acquiesce to every little thing. We're saying to learn to get your point across in a way that's productive to the relationship. Or sometimes the point don't necessarily need to be made. The bottom line is you want peace between you and your spouse. And peace, we say it all the time, peace don't necessarily mean quiet. Sometimes you need to voice what it is, but you have to get some skills to learn how to voice it in a way that you're being an asset to the relationship and that you're not being a problem. You're being part of the solution. I hope I said that right.
Well, bless you.
Excuse me.
All right, you were done with that? Okay. So another thing we can do as far as implementing this is we talk about it a lot, is open communication. Open communication with your spouse can help regulate your emotions. Because if everything is on the table and you know how to communicate with each other, basically continue to learn how to communicate with each other, that the open communication will help you develop a system of learning how to get over your emotions and to get through to each other. So that's what we need to do. And when you are talking about your emotions, don't let your emotions take control of the open communication, because you can say a lot of stuff that, like we talked about earlier, you can't pull back from But if you learn how to openly communicate, you'll learn the strategies to open communication, and that will help you develop a lot of emotional self-regulation.
It is. Well, it kind of puts some things in your toolbox so that you aren't always having to respond just kind of from a knee-jerk response or responding based on what you've seen. Even when you know what you've seen is dysfunctional, people still will tend to duplicate that unless you, goes back to renewing your mind.
Right.
Learning some skills for how to communicate. Those are very important points to help you learn to regulate your emotions. So another thing I wanted to mention is in the process of having open communication, you have the option to decide to harness emotions for the sake of resolution. Did you already say that? Right. So, okay. So that's the point I wanted to make, is that it's a choice that you can make when you're communicating. You can choose to sort of arrest your own emotions, knowing that you're looking for a resolution. And if you get to the point that you are not able to come up with a resolution between the two of you, sometimes you have to reach out and get some outside help. And in the course of getting that outside help, the goal has to be that this help is going to help you to employ some type of contract between the two of you that's going to help you to get on track, or bring some type of agreement, contract agreement, however you want to look at it, because sometimes it needs to be written.
Right.
Just to hold both parties accountable, but you need someone that can help you to draft some kind of resolution or agreement between the two of you so that you can enjoy that place of peace. So I hope that makes sense, because that's what I want to say about communication.
Okay.
Another thing too that we hadn't talked much about, but it flows with what we're talking about, is yesterday in our lesson we had Sunday, Bishop Butch talked about cognitive change, and he used that term talking about how you can consciously choose to appraise a situation differently from how you have appraised the situation in the past. When something is appraised, you become aware of its value. And when you think about the value of your relationship, when you're in, having an argument or a disagreement, or you're feeling offended or resentful, or you're having those emotions to come up, you have the opportunity to appraise the situation. Is it more important that you, make the purchase that you're wanting to make, that your spouse might be in opposition to? Is it more important for you to have that purchase, or for you to work with your spouse to come up with a resolution for that problem? Because what you don't want to do is damage your relationship over a thing or an issue or situation, whatever that may be. You got to think about, is that worth throwing away my relationship for? Is it worth damaging my relationship, our relationship? And so it's a conscious cognitive change that has to take place in you for you to make that decision that you're going to stop, appraise your situation, determine what the value of something is. And that helps kind of harness your emotions too. Because if you take stock of how valuable your relationship is, your marriage, how valuable that is, and then you compare whatever this issue is before you, is it really worth you lashing out, causing damage, saying something damaging or hurtful to your spouse? Because words can cut.
They can.
Whoever said sticks and stones break my bones, but words never hurt me, told a lie. So many people have been hurt by words. And so you want to be careful of how you use your words with your spouse, and be careful of how you let your emotions bring those harsh words up out of you. You've got to be able to tame yourself, compose yourself, so that what you say helps to bring about a resolution.
Right.
Not to bring about more confusion. Yeah. So that was another point. And the sermon we're referring back to yesterday, it is on our church Facebook page. It's from this whole series on lids, talking about, lids are things that contain us. And we want to be careful about those limits that are imposed on us. Limits imposed defeat striving. That's an acronym. What lids is an acronym for. And so ultimately, it's just bringing you aware of the fact that being I'm trying to think of a word, confined
Mm-hmm.
or limited is what a lid does. And so we want to give you some strategies so that you're able to get beyond that, because not being in control of your emotions is definitely prevents you from removing those lids in your life or in
Right.
your marriage.
Mm-hmm. So,
Don't look at my notes.
I'm not looking at your notes. We go through this all the time, Facebook.
We do, because
So
it's my
I'm looking at her
own
notes.
chicken scratch, and I don't want you getting off of your thoughts.
I'm not judging her notes, people. But anyway, one point I wanted to bring to this topic and dealing with the emotions. Just talking to some of my friends, and you know, and they'll say something like triggered. You know, that triggered me,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking that's an emotional response.
it is.
And one thing about your emotional response, be aware. Learn to be aware what may trigger you. So when you're dealing with this topic, emotional self-regulation, learn what may trigger you. Learn what may give you an emotional response that may not be beneficial, that may bring you out of, I ain't gonna say bring you out of the nice person that you are, but may cause you to cause a conflict between you and your spouse. You know, one thing that kind of triggers me with my wife is when we're planning for marriage Mondays, she started eating. That's so silly, but it does trigger me. I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to talk to her because you eating and you got a mouthful of food. We ain't doing that. But it's a silly little thing.
It really is.
And I shouldn't let that trigger me.
And you act like I don't have home training and I talk with my mouth full, and that's not the case.
Mama
and
E trained y'all well.
Can vouch for that.
She did. And she does. And I've been around y'all, 25 or so years now? So I know you got great home training. But when you're eating and we're planning, I shouldn't let it bother me. That was just an example of things that may trigger you.
So how long are you going to allow that to be a trigger? Because I'm about tired of you bringing that up.
I don't know. I'll get over it one day.
Ooh.
Soon.
How?
I don't know.
Emotional self-regulation?
I know. That's what we're talking about. That's why I brought it up.
And when's the last time that has happened?
Huh?
When's the last time that's happened?
I'm just saying, telling people what's an example. Now, it hadn't happened within the last year or so.
Right. So why are you still bringing that up?
I'm just telling them about a trigger. That's a trigger.
Look at Mandy be on my side. She gonna get you tomorrow too at work.
Stop it. But anyway,
you need to let stuff. So
I would let it go.
We'll stop bringing it up.
Okay.
Because I don't do that. First of all.
Okay, Facebook family.
I'm a lady.
And I love my lady. But anyway, that's just an example of what we've been talking about tonight. So with that said,
no, I do. Else? Yes, you got me off track with that little example that you shouldn't have used. What I want to
I shouldn't use the example. It was
because I've already past that. We passed that point. You need to stop bringing it up. So what I wanted to say is when people have things that trigger them, that is an area that you can focus on, is removing that trigger. Because what you said was real petty, but some people have real triggers that like emotional, based upon things that have happened in their past from some negative experiences that they've had. Serious stuff. And so once you identify that you have those triggers, you can choose to stay in that same place and not deal with it and let it continue to be a trigger. But I would encourage you to find a way. And there are lots of ways. There's therapy. Sometimes it's just submitting that thing to God and saying, God, I know that this is a sore spot for me. I don't like that I'm not in control of my emotions anytime somebody, looks at me a certain way or does a certain things or touch me a certain way. I want to be free of that lid or that level of bondage in my life. I want to get over that trigger. So that's something that you can submit to God. None of that stuff is too hard for God to heal and to resolve in your life, but you have to be willing to submit it to God. So once you recognize it, you can allow God to show you how to go about healing that. if you don't know how to get to the other side for yourself. And so that's what I want to bring up about, things that are being triggered, for us not to take it so lightly and to nurse that thing that seems to be a trigger. Because sometimes we hang on to it and we keep saying, well, that's a trigger for me, that's a trigger. But we're not ever trying to remove that trigger so that it is no longer a trigger in our lives, so that we can have peace and not have to always have that be a sore spot or a place of weakness in our lives. It's about growth.
It is.
It's growth. So I think all of us, who was that? Latasha Howler was saying, I admit I have triggers I'm learning now through prayer. There you go. Oh my God, fasting is such a powerful tool if people will use it.
If they use it.
People love food so much.
Yeah.
It can be a hard thing sometimes. But once you learn to conquer your flesh and really you find out once you get through that first little bit of hunger, that you don't die. When you make it to that first, goal, you're not going to die if you don't eat right away. Now, if you're not drinking, that might be another issue. All right, you going to have to read that. I don't know why you let me swim.
My brother-in-law,
that's
Stephanie. Yeah,
Hey,
sometimes
Stephanie.
Triggers help us learn something about ourselves that need to be healed. Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And
that's
stating even better than what I just said. That's what I was trying to say, but that was certainly stated more eloquently. Yeah, it's important for us to recognize those triggers. That is something that we need to learn about ourselves and submit that to God to be healed. Because not for us to take it so lightly.
And I just want to thank Amanda Brantley, because she did use that word in my office today when we were dealing with a situation where the kid was being triggered by something. And I just thought that was just an emotional response to what we're going through.
Yeah.
And so it just came out in the lesson. So appreciate you, Miss Brantley. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We encourage y'all come back. We'll be right back here next Monday night, hopefully with a good topic, something that'll help you guys, because these are things that are constantly helping us. We, by no stretch of the imagination, have arrived. And anybody that knows us knows that we have not. Anybody that watches this program knows that we have not. But we are constantly growing, and we are very intentional about making our marriage work. And that's what we want to get you all to do as well, to be very intentional about making your marriage work, because a great marriage does not happen by accident.
It does not.
And so you have to put the work in, put the effort in. And so we're here to help with that process.
All right. Those are closing remarks.
Yeah, I done talked enough today.
Okay. So, with that said, y'all, from the lady and the coach, we love y'all. Good night.